Hey everyone, it's Amber from the Sensible Mama, and today is going to be a completely weird, not like any of my other content kind of video. I asked you guys over on Instagram if you wanted to hear a little ghost story about my warehouse, and a bunch of you guys said that yes, you want to hear it. So today I think I'm just going to share it with you. I've got you on a gimbal here because I'm going to take you into my warehouse and share with you kind of what's been going on, because it's been a little bit trippy. And if you don't believe in ghosts, that's fine. This is more for fun than anything else. If you do believe in ghosts, prepare to be intrigued. Let's go on to the warehouse. So the first thing that kind of got us started, I guess the most interesting thing to share with you guys today, is the most recent thing that has been happening. So let me just show you. In case you've not followed me before, this is the warehouse for the Sensible Mama. This is where we keep all of our stuff pertaining to the business. And we've been in here for just about 2 years. We're 2 years into a 3-year contract. I've put videos here on my channel sharing with you guys the process of securing this space and everything that we went through for that. Now, we've been the only ones in here. We have cameras all over the place just for my safety and the safety of all of our stuff. There's been no one in here, not since the day we moved in, just us. However, Tiffany and I noticed something on the walls right behind me just the other day. I'm gonna show you. So right over here, you can see the beginnings of these handprints on the wall. These were absolutely not here when we moved in. And they kind of find themselves all the way down this wall. Now I know what you're thinking, Amber, you're crazy. That's probably just been there this whole time and you never noticed it. And I would have been on the same page as you about that. We've got more over here. Here's the thing though, I'm gonna get into why I disbelieve that. But first of all, these are all left-handed, okay? Only left-hand prints, except for a few right up there. Which led me to believe that maybe this was like someone was painting as they were putting up these different slabs that are up here. Let me turn you around. You see all this paint here is like little slabs that were put up. Maybe they were putting up these slabs and someone was like holding the slab with their left hand and then using their right hand to paint, right? That was my first conclusion. That was what seemed to make the most sense to me. But here's the thing. Tiffany, who works for me, we've both been very freaked out, right? Tiffany, who works for me, decided to go back through all of my old YouTube videos, Instagram posts and whatnot, and she said that she could find no evidence of those handprints until August, which was just last month. Evidently, she found my videos where I have shown these walls here and they weren't there. What's suspicious about that is, like I said, no one has been in here. We've even looked through our old camera footage to see if maybe our landlord sent people out here to do some touch-ups on the wall over a weekend when we weren't here. There has been no one here touching those walls. Now, for those of you who are on the skeptical side of belief in the paranormal and ghosts and spirits and things like that, you may be asking yourself, well, how could a ghost actually leave handprints? And I agree with you. But my question that I would pose to you is, how are invisible real people putting handprints on the wall? This is my thing. If it's not a ghost, who did it? Now, this in and of itself would probably be something that I would just say, you know what? It's probably been there all along. There's mistakes in the footage. Maybe it was too bright in the room. You couldn't see the handprints, but they've really been there all along in the old videos. That would be where I would land if it weren't for the other things that have happened in this warehouse. So let me turn you around here. This right here has been the most problematic shelf in this warehouse. It's actually why this whole shelf right here is for the most part empty, because we have had some creepy things happen with that shelf specifically. Let me tell you about it. This was maybe a few months ago where I came in on a Monday morning very, very early after Tiffany had worked the weekend shifts doing any of our weekend shipments. When I came in, what I found was a whole bunch of our replay merchandise set up down here on the floor. Now, occasionally things like cups, things that are round might fall off of the shelf and kind of roll. That happens sometimes. You just come in, pick it up, clean it off, and put it back up there. But what was interesting about this was that it was an assortment of bowls and cups set up in a way that absolutely could not have been set up by things just falling off of the shelf. There were 2 cups stacked on top of each other as though someone was kind of trying to build a ladder with them or something. And then there were some bowls that were set up in kind of like a semicircle, so to speak. Then there were some plates that were down, set up around them in a very deliberate, playful way. It kind of reminded me of the way that Abby will play when she's doing imaginative play, and she's got her little characters and she uses all these different little objects to represent houses and trees and bushes and all that stuff. It looked exactly like that. So my first thought was, okay, maybe Tiffany had to bring her kids in with her over the weekend. Sometimes that happens, but it's not really like Tiffany to leave her kids' mess here. We tend to be pretty considerate of each other. We will pick up our stuff before we leave. So I thought it was strange that she would not have picked this stuff up. So I came in, I picked it up, tried to think nothing of it, but as the day went on, I thought more and more about it. And when Tiffany got in for her shift, I asked her, hey, did you have the kids in this weekend? She said, no, they stayed at home with my husband. And I said, okay, did you put down some of this replay stuff down here? And I showed her a picture of how it was laid out. She said, no, Amber, I did not do that. So we sat here kind of in awe for a little while, trying to figure out what could have caused these things to be set up just like this. We went in to look at the video footage from the warehouse, and there was no footage for that night. It was just gone. Again, in and of itself, maybe this would be something that I would just sort of let slide. Maybe it's a weird coincidence that these things landed here the way that they did. But around that time, there was also some really interesting things happening here in the warehouse that still happen to this day, and we can't figure out what it is. So all of the cameras that are set up in here, we have got them at the front, in the back, and on the sides of this warehouse inside space. So not only are there cameras on the outside, there are cameras here on the inside. These are all motion detection cameras, which will detect any kind of movement inside of the building. There was, I'm gonna say, probably a month-long span where just about every night we would get motion sensor alerts from the inside of the warehouse without any on the outside. So it would be the middle of the night, our phones would start going off saying that there has been activity inside of the warehouse. We would get a phone call from the alert system that we use, and they would ask, is there anyone in the warehouse? Do we need to go check? And we would open up our cameras and look at the footage from the inside of the warehouse, and there was obviously no one in there. In addition, there was no one on the outside trying to get in, or else that would have triggered the motion sensors on the outdoor camera. We looked through all the footage. We were never able to find any movement whatsoever on the inside of this warehouse. And yet, in the mornings, I would come in, and every so often I would find weird stuff laid out on the floor in very deliberate ways, but we never had it caught on camera. The last thing is probably the most interesting, and this still remains a mystery to me. It's the one that I think is fascinating, but I also think is probably the most disprovable. Tiffany was here over the weekend, 2 weekends ago, and she called me to say that she felt unsafe and she was getting ready to leave because we had our bay door closed, which is right over here, that big door. If you're not very familiar with how this warehouse space is set up, we're in a business park, so there are multiple other businesses who are next to ours. We're here on the corner. And so occasionally you can hear other people in this business park speaking outside, kind of doing their own business out in the parking lot. Tiffany said that she heard 2 men fighting outside of our warehouse door, screaming at each other, accusing each other of stealing money from one another, and she said at some point she heard what sounded like gunshots. I told her, please, if you feel unsafe, go ahead and leave. And eventually, though, the noise outside quieted down and she finished up her shift. When I came in on Monday, I spoke to some of the other people in this business park who were here over the weekend, and none of them heard any of that conversation. They heard no gunshots, they heard no screaming, and they said to their knowledge, there was no one who was outside of the building over the weekend. I opened up our camera footage from the outside of the warehouse, and what do you know? There is no footage. Now, I'm not saying that there's footage sitting outside of the warehouse not showing anyone out there. What I'm saying is the footage is gone. There's no footage for that day. I don't know what to make of it all. It's very interesting stuff. And we are just being on our guard a little bit when we're here. From what we can tell, if there is a ghost or a spirit of some sort here, it's friendly. It likes to play with some of the stuff we have on the shelves. Not so sure about the outside situation. That one sounds a little bit more human than the rest, but we potentially have a friendly ghost here in the warehouse. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that, whether you believe in ghosts or don't believe in ghosts, or your theories or speculation about the things that I've shared with you here today. Leave it all down in the comments below, and on Monday I will get back to my regularly scheduled programming. Love ya, mean it always, mwah, and I'll see you in the next one.